What's up, everybody out there? It's your boy Twist Johnson, aka Cousin Twist. Yeah. All right, let's just start it. If you're new here, what's up? If you stopping in, thank you. And if you like what I'm doing, don't forget to hit that like button. And then you can get to me if you hit the notification button, and you can see when other videos drop. We alive. Yes, I know that I've been doing this like a few days in a row, which is nice. I had a few minutes, I had some time, so I'm doing it again. Um, First and foremost, happy Thursday. I hope everybody out there is having a blessed day, evening, afternoon, wherever you at in the world. YouTube is broad. Uh, so I got a few things I want to talk about. I labeled this insecurities and anxiety because I had a great conversation with one of my mentors this morning, but I was like half asleep, but I was actually catching what they were saying too. What's up, Nat? So I was catching what they said, and it resonated with me to like to share some stuff with y'all. But before that, I also was interacting in the email with one of my YouTube peers, and I felt compelled just to say something to people out there. So if you catch this later or like when the recording drops, I want you to understand when we are content creators and we are peers and we are supporting one another, I want you to understand that we all get busy. We all are doing this. We all, whether it's just for fun, whether it's for educational purposes, or we trying to make some coins, trying to get to the bag. Um, a lot of us, we get discouraged because we think that, like, hey, you're supposed to stop at my channel, you're supposed to support me and run my viewership up, whatever the case may be. Support is support. Let's pay attention to this. If the person that you're supporting, if you're doing it just out of kindness of your heart and you just being a genuine person, you want them to win, of course. There's some of us out here who actually don't really care about the material that we put out. It might not resonate. Like, some of us are talking about demonic stuff. Some of us do vlogs about nails. Some of us, we play cards or we game. It might not be what you're looking for, but you want to support it. So, if you're not a fan of it, that doesn't mean that you can't support it. Let's put that out there. The other part about it is that, like, if you're supporting someone, it's just like the outside world. A lot of us, we want to support the person, but it might not be what we want to do. So, like, don't send it out to your family and friends unless they really into what you really into. But as a pair, as content creators, as pairs, please understand is that, like, when one of us are stopping at each other's pages, when we stopping on each other's videos and stuff, it can be because they're genuinely supporting you or they genuinely a fan. But don't get discouraged about the support no matter what it is. But I do not encourage follow for follows. I've never done that. The follow for follow method, although it's effective, you usually get a lot of people who are just, you know, bookmarking your channel, but they're not really interested in what you're doing. I know that in the beginning, that was something that, like, before I knew what I wanted to do with the channel, before I knew what YouTube was about as a creator, I definitely followed the format, and I was following and following and following. You'll see a lot of that on, like, Threads, Facebook, Instagram, whatever other social medias you have. They do have these chats where they do the follow for follows, but that shit goes nowhere. Um, and I quickly noticed that, like, yeah, we don't even really watch people's shit. Now, there's some of us that we do. We actually mention, like, we do the same thing. But that follow for follow thing is just going to have people on your channel who don't resonate with what you're doing and don't really care about, like, what you're really talking about. They followed you because you followed them and your videos drop. They're not really interested in what you're trying to do. So I want to encourage you people out there, if you're going to follow each other, especially if you're a content creator, do the research. Do the research on what the channel is, what it's about, and if it's something that you are very interested in, that it really makes sense for you. Like, a lot of the stuff, I realized it didn't make sense. You know what that follow for follow did to me when I first started? I started to get channels, I always talk about those revenue update channels and the YouTube tip channels, which is effective for people who are just starting. But once you get in the groove and you understand what you're trying to do, The YouTube tips, you don't need to utilize it as often. You just only really need it anytime like there's a new update, or you need to figure out like how to navigate through something you might not really be familiar with. But you can always contact one of your peers or your content creator people from your community to ask them how to do it. But you'll get a lot of that, and you'll get the revenue people. You know the revenue people. We don't got to do that. But the follow for follow, that's all I was getting. I started to hate it, and it messed up my algorithm. It messed up what I was trying to do. But once I started weaving that out and I started unsubscribing to a lot of channels and stuff, I got to where I was trying to go, and I started like getting with like like people. You know what I'm saying? But like, yeah, that follow for follow, I never suggest it. I'm not against it. That's just not my thing. And if you are a content creator and you are a fan of one of your peers, make sure that like you go over there, you binge watch what they're doing at night if you can. Sometimes I do that a lot. Like I definitely step in and like, I'll be in the comment section, or I'll like a video, and I definitely do give some time. Like I actually listen to what people are saying, like whether it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on what I'm doing. If I'm out and about, only got a few minutes, whatever. If you want to whip, give them a listen or something, because like this is easy. But it's not easy putting it out there. It's just easy to give a listen. So however you want to do that. So I wanted to put that out. The other part about it is I wanted to talk about just briefly before I talk about what I wanted to talk about, is I wanted to revisit the impact. Like I talked yesterday on the live about impact and intention. And I said that like you guys, not you guys, all of us, that we pay attention to the impact so much that it overrides the intention. I also want to double back, and I want to talk about in certain aspects, it is okay to consider the impact over the intention. But it still stands. When we're talking about emotions and relationships and person to person interaction, it is very important that you keep the intention in front and then be present for the impact. However, when it comes to certain settings and it comes to certain circumstances, you have to consider the impact before the intention. For instance, an example of that would be if you are dealing with someone who might, let's see if we can come up with a touchy one. I'm trying to think. Um, okay, a tough one, because I want to challenge myself while I challenge you guys. A tough one off the head would be someone who is wearing the same outfit. They wear the same clothing. You notice that they're wearing it every day. Same shirt, same pants, same jeans. They don't really have a problem with hygiene. Let's paint the picture, but they are wearing the same outfit over and over and over. I mean, they had it on for Monday. Now it's Sunday. It's about to go on a whole nother week. Now, the impact of that is depending on how you go about it. Someone might just take it upon themselves to go to whatever shopping department that they like to shop in, and they bring them a bag of clothes, like, yeah, I thought about you. The impact of that is someone might feel like you thought that they were dirty, that you thought that they were less fortunate, that they didn't have any money to buy their own clothes. So the impact on that would make someone feel offended, make someone feel like you think that they can't take care of themselves. But that was not the intention. The intention was to do a good deed, because, the assumption was there. So in those areas, it's important to pay attention to what the impact might be. With that same scenario, instead of assuming and making an ass out yourself, instead of making the assumptions that this person might be less fortunate and they can't afford, maybe be curious. Be curious. Don't be judgmental. Don't be assuming. Be curious. Like, keep a curious mind. Have a conversation with the person. Figure it out. Maybe they like the outfit. There's certain times, like, full disclosure, I'm from Harlem. You know how New York get. You can't wear the same thing. But when you start to go on the outskirts, when you go to certain areas, it's not as packed as the city. So if I put on an outfit and I don't feel like that, like I got the recognition, like people didn't like give me the thing that I was looking for when I put it on. Yeah, I'm gonna wear it again. I'm gonna wear it tomorrow. I'm gonna wear it the day after that, just so I could get what I was looking for. My outfit ain't outfitting, so like I'm like, so I'm gonna put the same shirt on, I'm gonna put the same pants on, I'm gonna put the same sneakers on, I'm gonna have the whole same fit going on because I want people to be like, oh yo, that's fire. Like yo, you put that together, you know what I'm saying? Once I feel content with the feedback that I got, then I'm like, all right, cool. But I just wanted to use that example because it was more on the lighter side, but I wanted to choose something tough, and that's what resonated, the outfit thing. So, we're gonna talk about um, insecurities and anxieties. How do they tie in together? Okay, what people don't know is that anxiety and insecurities, they are rooted often from the same origins, and the same origins that I'm talking about is childhood trauma, relationship trauma, cognitive behavior issues, all of those factors that like may have came from the past, may have came from the present, maybe coming from the current situations that you're going through financially. Maybe you thrived in a job and then you lost it because you got laid off. Relationships, maybe someone stepped out, or maybe you guys are not having the same effect on each other that you used to have, or you losing the spark. Someone's feeling like they're not getting the attention that they used to get. You're not bringing that old thing back. It could be friends. Friends might have, did the he say, she say. It's not intentional. We all got those friends, those Rachels, Phoebes, and Monicas, and Rosses, Joeys, and Chandlers. We all got those. And the living single people, Sinclair. we got that. And friends talk amongst friends, and it might have been a conversation where you felt like people were talking about you and not talking of you. And, politicking got out of the way. All of those things come into play. Um, what that does for people when anxiety is tied up into the insecurity, it creates a bigger worry. It creates a fear. But there's two sides to that I want to explore with you guys today. I don't want to take up too much time, but I don't want to just piece out like I normally do. I'm gonna be freelance, so let me take my time. And I also want to point out, because I do know that like sometimes when I'm interacting, I'm freelancing. Listen, my brain is fried. And it's not fried because I've been smoking marijuana or weed or anything. It's fried because I be doing a lot of studying. A lot of studying. For those of you who know, if you know, you know. But if you don't know, let me put you on the game. Like I'm currently in my master's degree, and I don't just bullshit around with that. Like, this is the future. I'm gonna be dealing with people, and you don't want just anybody dealing with you, especially when you dealing with your mental health. When you seeking therapy, you looking for counseling, you looking for results, you looking for guidance. You don't want to just sit in anybody's chair and they scratch headed and they asking you, like, yes, like inside of the therapeutic world, like we are supposed to guide, we are not supposed to just suggest, we are just supposed to make sure that we guide you in the right direction to where you can get the information and you can make the decision that best benefits your lifestyle. However, if you sit in somebody's chair, you don't want someone being like, well, I don't know, like, shit. When the hour's up, like, yeah, let's do this again next week. No, it's the same as being a nurse or being a doctor, someone who's going to deliver the baby. You don't want someone that's between your legs and they sitting there like, so which was the umbilical cord? Like, where did you go to school at? Yeah, I'm just fucking around, but seriously, it's like I take this serious because this is people's lives, and like anybody who's sitting like beside you, anybody who's sitting in that chair, you want to give them your resilience, you want to give them the best, you want to make sure that your skills is leaking out of those conversations so you can give them the best treatment that they deserve. And that's what I want to do out there. That's what I've been doing out there, but I'm taking this to another level. Anyway, so that's what I'm doing. So sometimes I'm up at least like 15, 16 hours, sometimes 17, 18 hours. No bullshit. If you've been to school, you know what that does. Like, especially when you work in a full-time job as well, you know that like it does not exist. It's like you got 10 kids, babies are crying, And then when you get them to stop crying, you got people knocking on the door that don't know how to feed themselves. And the people who don't know how to feed themselves, then you got kids outside who's of age getting in trouble with the law. It's chaotic like that. You got to find balance in the chaos. So there's a lot of shit that, like, that's going on. So I just want you to understand, like, my brain muscles are like going like this. It's going like this. You know what I'm saying? It's like going to the gym after 8, 9 months, which I probably am gonna do, and I got something coming with that. But it's like going to the gym after all of that time, and you thinking that you just gonna pop out that muscle memory and get that shit going, and the next thing you know, the next day your body is cooked, my boy. Your body is cooked. Anyway, so that's what I mean. So what I was getting at with that is that I know sometimes I botch up words. I know sometimes, like, when I'm trying to, unlock my smartness and I'm just talking real fast and I'm just, coming off with it off my mind. Sometimes I'm thinking I'm freestyling, like I'm battle rapping and shit and messing up the words, reaching up. Um, so I'm gonna try to do less is more with a lot of the things that's coming up. I've been, recognizing what that looks like. So I could not so I cannot misplace words in the wrong definitions and the wrong vocabularies. I've been feeling like I'm having some type of dyslexia with words and shit. You know how people do it, read it. Yeah, that type of stuff. Yeah, but anyway, so when we talking about that, we the insecurities and the anxiety, and I told you guys that it comes from the same origin, right? And that's that cognitive behavior, past traumas, childhood traumas, things that were passed on from relationships whatsoever. So I'm just repeating it for the people who are just coming in right now. Um, what if the other part that I was wanted to tell you is you got the person who has the insecurity, and then you have the person that it transfers from. What if I told you that you can actually have shared insecurities? You can pass on your insecurity to someone unintentionally. Do we know that? Inside the psychology world, inside of the therapeutic world, we do understand that terminology. What is the word for it? I'm gonna have to spit it out. Let me just get the information. When I'm talking about, like, if you have traumas, if you have insecurities, you have those triggers, right? When you having these triggers and you having these insecurities, depending on who you speak with. Now, I want to make it broader. So we're not talking about just relationships. We're not just talking about friendships. We're not just talking about significant others. We're not doing that. We're talking about overall. So whatever resonates, let it resonate. Yes. Yeah, yes. Especially, yes. Like, yeah, it all wraps into one. We're not just going to, like, step into that. Thanks, Sinclair. I'll see you with that. So when you are a person who has insecurities for whatever reason, let's figure out an example that we could deal with. Okay, yeah. So one of your friends, your good friend, right? Your friend is one of those people who like the crack jokes. They love the crack jokes. I got a lot of those in my friend group. Like, they don't read the room. The room has to read them, type of stuff. If you get that, you got that friend that just has no chill, just says Bert whatever they say, they can't hold it in. And whether it's they don't have to be in a social setting. It could just be you and them, and they would just say the wrong shit because they just can't help themselves. That's the shit. That's the example we're gonna use. So you got a friend who gives this joke and says something like, makes a comment about your weight. Now, low key, you've been struggling with weight basically half your whole life. You try to stay away from cheeseburgers, but you love them. You do the frozen yogurt, but you prefer the ice cream. Sometimes you want to eat at night and you don't want to be judged, so you pull out those cookies and milk when no one's up. This person says something without understanding the impact, without recognizing what the intention was, and the intention was to be humorous. So you got to look at both of those, and this is what I'm saying is, like, in these type of situations, you might want to look at the impact before you look at the intention. Um, this is one of those. So they cracked the joke, and I don't know, if let's just say if you're a female, you start to cry, you start to feel away. If you're a male, you get hostile. whichever, and let's not put no category on like what you is, whether you're a feminine male or masculine female, or you either one. Paint your own picture on that. But the person says it, it makes you feel away inside. You feel attacked, you shut down, you stop talking to the person for a little bit. Now, life goes on, and the next week comes and they call you up. Yo, what's up? Let's get together. Let's have lunch. Let's have dinner. Let's go have some drinks. Taco Tuesday, whatever. And you like, brushing them off for the first 2 weeks or so. Eventually, you guys get together again, and they make another joke, and guess what happens? You automatically attack. Start saying things about their parents, start saying things about their relationship, start saying things about them that you don't even really need to say, but because of your insecurity and you let that pout, it leaked out. You guys eventually have a conversation and you let them know, like, yo, what you said, like, it kind of affected me. It did affect me because I was struggling with my weight. And I've been feeling some way about it myself. People used to tease me when I was younger because, I had titties, I had breastises, I had like a big stomach. That did not happen to me, but I'm saying, like, there are people out there who did struggle with those. They struggle with those issues, like obese. They didn't have healthy practices in their households, or maybe they just was big boned. I don't know the scientific terminology for big boned, but I know that there's people out there that are naturally big. Anyway, so now the person recognizes what that situation is to them, and they become apologetic. They was like, "Yo, my bad. I didn't know that you were feeling that way." Here's where that situation switches over. And I'm going on the most humorous one because what am I thinking? Psycho. That's what it's called. If I didn't say it earlier, because I know I'm trying to give you this information. Psychological projection. Psychological projection is when you unintentionally pass on your insecurities to another person because it's a defense mechanism for yourself, and it protects you. It protects you. So what happens is that you start to channel that on to other people. And what that does is puts another person in a perspective to be reticent about the information that they give you. So they hold back on things because now they have the fear of how you're going to react, what's it's going to do for you. Even the intention might be in a positive aspect, but they cannot channel that adamancy that they used to have because now you passed on your insecurity to them. And now that I got it, it's called psychological projection, and that's when you unintentionally pass on the insecurity. But the example that I'm giving is more lighter. I'm not giving the manipulative side. You can actually Google the information, research what psychological projection is. It's hefty, but I'm just giving you the short and simple. But going back to the person, so now that insecurity is passed on to them, now they have a shared insecurity about that section of your relationship. So them jokes no longer exist. You don't even revisit that. So what it is now is that, like, you might have on a certain outfit, and the person might want to crack a humorous joke with you, but now they don't know how to interact with you or not because now they have that fear, they have that insecurity, and they refrain from making those type of jokes. Now other people might make remarks, but they won't. And then you might ask them like, "Oh, what you think of that?" And they're like, "No, it's nice." And they keep it cute, and you probably want like them to indulge and give you that give you some feedback, but like I said, they become reticent from it because now it's there. Now that was a lighter part of that. Um, so the person, as you can see, the person that transferred onto, the friend that was cracking those jokes, the friend no longer cracks those jokes. But what happens when it's a moment and not an overall situation of the circumstances of passing on the insecurity? A moment insecurity can deteriorate a whole relationship, and I think a lot of us don't understand that. when you have a moment of insecurity, it is not up to the person or the people that you are dealing with to understand. It is for them to learn and acknowledge, but a lot of people don't even know that a lot of us are struggling with that stuff. A lot of us, especially when it comes to weight, you probably only tell like one or two people that you confide in, but you don't tell like the whole group. You're not gonna just walk out, unless you that type of person. But I think even those from like the track record doesn't just come out and be like, I'm fat, unless they joking, seriously joking. They say it indirect, but they don't have a conversation at the table about how they're so fat. There are some people out there that do it, but I don't think a lot of people open with that introduction, and you don't just have that conversation with everyone. That's kind of like an inborn, like that's just like a self conversation you have to a degree to where you're not mentioning to others of like how to what extent that is. But that's a moment one, and people have to understand is that like a lot of us, we have to learn each other. We still trying to figure that out, even in a relationship. Like people say things and blur things out and realize that they made a boo-boo and like they didn't understand. Let's talk about the person again that doesn't understand. um no, no, we was talking about the moment. Yeah. Right, we were talking about the moment and the broad. Please get, yeah. All right, so we were talking about the moment. That's the moment one. Thank you for putting me back on track. We was putting it on the moment, but now we're talking about it in a broader aspect. And the broader aspect of it is that um we can focus on, because we always focus on a person that has the insecurity that is stemmed from that the person who got it. Um, but the stem from is also a pattern and routine. Follow me for a little bit. A pattern and a routine that we didn't know that actually stemmed genetically from someone else too. It's like it's like an airborne disease. It's like having a cold or something. An insecurity and a trauma is passed on. It's always passed on. You might be the first person that experienced it the way that you're experiencing it, but you're not the first person that had it. And it gets passed on. It gets passed on. That's how insecurities work. People don't understand that. But I won't get too deep. That's this whole thing. But just to finish on that part is that like the insecurity that you had inherited was from someone who passed it to you. And now you're passing it on to others. But there's a way that you don't have to. You can actually work and lean into your insecurities, lean into your triggers, and you can start to recognize what that looks like for you and explore the why more. Why is this so impactful? Why does this um become damaging to your lifestyle? Why are you transferring this on to other individuals? Once you start doing the work, you could break the curse. That's what it is. You break the curse. Let's get back into what happens for the person, because we talked about the person that it stems from, and we said that it passes on from someone else. But now that you got it, people focus on you. What if you're the person that caused it? What if you're the person that caused the insecurity? What if you're the person that did the deed? You made the joke. You you caused friction in the relationship. You messed up the friendship. You was in the he say she say type of shit. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us in society, we look at it, we feel like this person does not. You don't get to feel bad about this person. What's up, Liz Vlogs? You don't get to feel bad about this person. This person does not get the satisfaction of feeling bad about, right? Right, that is. However, at the same time, you do have to explore what that looks like on that end too, because this is a person too. And I'm not talking about the people that just want to say, wham, bam, thank you, man, get over the shit. I'm talking about the people who actually sincerely do the work, show up, acknowledge. I'm doing good. How are you? I'm talking about the people who work, acknowledge, and they recognize where they went wrong, and they actually sincerely are apologetic, and they want to do the work, right? Um, what happens with those people is when the insecurity is passed, and It's for the same situation, it's for the same actions, but it's for different reasons. Let's turn the trauma just a little bit. You can have the same traumas, but for different reasons, because you were a part of the same event. The same event was going on, but you guys have different visions. You guys have different sorry. See, the brain farts. You gotta remember, you guys got different versions of what that trauma looks like for you. Let's use the example of you being in a car accident. That'll be a good one. If you're in a car accident and you get hit by another car, the car got totaled, but you guys both survived. You both are alive. You move on in life. Everything's fun and dandy. Everything's great, right? Um, you got the person who was driving, and you got the person who was in the passenger side, right? We'll leave it at that. We're not gonna make it difficult. All right. So you go on in life, and when it comes to that trauma, there's a trigger that goes in. Now, the person who's driving, their trauma would probably come from a certain road. It probably come from a certain song that will remind them of that incident, and it will bring them back to that feeling of what that is. The other person, however, that's in the passenger side, might have got a trauma from the color of the car that hit them, or the color of the car that you guys were in, and every time they see that color of the car is when it brings them back to that traumatic experience. So you can have the same events but have different reasons why you're experiencing trauma. That goes into the insecurities and the anxiety parts about it. We'll get more into the anxiety a little bit more, but we'll get back into the insecurity part. What the insecurity part about that is, even the person who caused the insecurity, they become insecure too. While the person who while the person who had the insecurity from the first place, their insecurity will come from worry and fear and something that will become either consistent or repeated. The person who caused the insecurity, theirs usually come from regret, shame, what is, like, sadness. What am I thinking? Like sadness, self esteem, like not self sadness. So, all right, so keeping it simple, let's just thinking about it. Like, it would reverse, and then, like, what that does is that would give someone guilt, um, sadness, and fear. That's usually where it would come from. Like, and because you're ashamed, you feel guilty, and now you have regret because you hurt somebody. You did something to someone that you care for. You made remarks to someone that, like, you love. You did something to them that made them, like, a little bit leery about you and side eye you, and it's hard to forgive, right? Um, so the person that the insecurity is on, even if they did it, a lot of the times what happened is they start to have self-esteem issues. They start to struggle with conversations with you. They even start to struggle with making other relationships, because now they have an insecurity of, like, how they interact. But, like, keeping it on the persons, when we're having that insecurity that was passed on, even if you caused it, like, you still have an insecurity now that was, like, you have a shared insecurity. Not sharing, a shared insecurity. So when you have shared insecurity, it almost becomes destructive, right? But it doesn't have to stay that way. We'll get into that a little bit. But it doesn't have to be destructive to where you guys cannot work on a healthy balance. This is where the challenge comes in, to where you can actually work on that insecurity together, but it's very, very tough. It's very tough. It doesn't happen overnight, but you guys have to work on it. But when it comes to the person who caused it and now they have the insecurity, it goes back to the person who originally had the insecurity, for the simple fact that now you guys have a shared insecurity, right? We talked about, like, the friend. We talked about the making remarks. Let's put it on a lighter side still, but let's talk about being inside of a household. You and your spouse. Let's talk about dishes. I love talking about dishes. That seems to be the easiest thing to flow out. When you know, you probably didn't put something in the dishwasher, or you probably hand washed something and you probably missed a spot, or you didn't do the dishes before the person got home. Which one we gonna do? Right. Let's do this one. You didn't do the dishes before your person got home. You know that they like to do the dishes, right? Right. All right. So I'm gonna try to see if I can wrap this in. So the person gets home one day, and the dishes are not done. They say something to you about it. They remind you of how hard of a day they had, and that you've been home all day and you didn't do shit. Whatever, however they gonna spin it to you, you guys get into it about it. All right. All things become good inside the world. Y'all give each other flowers, whatever the case may be. Y'all good now. Um, the thing is that impact, because of how it was delivered. Now you have an insecurity. Now let's fast forward. Now that your significant other comes in, right? And there's three plates inside the sink. Um, Watch how two, because I want you to decipher this. And I'm gonna try to see which one I'm gonna visit first, but we'll visit both. So you, on the other hand, who was in the house, you recognize that, like, oh shit, this person's about to come home. There's two or three plates inside the thing, and you come out and they happen to be home, and you do whatever. Hey honey, hey baby, whatever, and then like you already have an excuse and justifying. Hey, I was about to do the dishes, da 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 da, and they might not have even thought about that. They might have been thinking of something else. But because now you have that insecurity of knowing that, like, if a dish is in the sink, by the time they get home, it might just even be a spoon that you gotta hit their mouth, and like you have a fear of them feeling like you are irresponsible, you're not dedicated, you don't care, you're not putting any effort into the situation. So now you have an insecurity about them coming in and picking on you about something that's so small, where it could have been a certain communication of what it looks like. Now for the other person coming in, their insecurity, that it might have been transferred to you. It might have been transferred to that person, to where they might have came in and they see two plates or so, and because of the way you reacted, they're not gonna say anything about it. And now they holding back from me, because now they know that, like, damn, if I say something about this person is gonna lash out. They're gonna become defensive or anything like that. So what they do is they hold it. They don't say anything about it. Some people, they might just jump in and they might start washing the dish for you. But here's the thing: when you start holding back and you start like transferring those insecurities and stuff, everyone is like being tiptoeish. No one's really saying what they need to say. The conversations become watered down and it's surface level, and no one could dig deep. This is where the anxiety kicks in. So once you get into those areas, what the anxiety starts to do is it starts to tie into the insecurity, and it kind of heightens it. And now, not only do you get triggered, you have worries, you have fears. Things that are mediocre or small presents huge, presents bigger than what it's supposed to. And either that could send your ass to the hospital, or it could send you to sleep. Whatever you do for your anxiety, there's different levels, and we'll start touching on that in another series. But what happens is that, like, your anxiety is gonna hype in, and what it does is it puts you into a shutdown mode. It puts you into an area to where not only are you having attacks, not only are you having panic attacks, you are fearful of the conversations. You cannot be assertive in conversations. In fact, if you are an assertive person, if you are an adamant person, you become more passive. You become passive aggressive. You try to get everything out as much as you can, and this is about friends, everyone. We're talking about it in the broader aspects. Um, and then, like, what it does is, like, it causes you to feel like you guys are unnatural. You guys cannot even communicate, and then eventually, the friendship is going to end because now someone feels like they can't be truthful, they can't be honest, they can't really be there for their friend, they can't be sincere. The friendship changes. Family members, you detach, you love from a distance, you just don't have the conversations with them. You feel like you can't be straightforward with them. In relationships, whether you married or you committed or you just started, whichever one. Now, if you just started, it's okay because you'll forgive and all is well in paradise because you're still growing. But if you got some skin in the game, you got some time, eventually that does cause friction to where like you guys might consider other options. Because if you feel like you can't be yourself and you feel like you can't have a conversation with your person, um you start to consider having options of other persons, which you don't want to do that. I'm sure you want to work on it, and like I said earlier, there is ways to do that. What you want to do is, in situations where you have the insecurity or the insecurity might have passed on to another person. This is for the people who been through this with friends, family, relationships, whatever. You had insecurities, you passed it on because you psychologically projected it onto someone else without the intent. You got to work on that, and it's not the person's responsibility to work on that for you. It's not even the person's responsibility to work on that with you. It is their responsibility, if they want to be a part of your life, to understand it and recognize it and have patience and to support you through it. Support you through it. Not walk with you, support you through it. This is your insecurity that you came in with. And even if they piled up to it and they added on to it, yes, a person who is responsible and who is present and understand, they will sit through it with you and they have to support that and they gotta own that. But a person who caused it, you too, you have to understand, if you caused this situation, you is, as a human, you have the right to develop an insecurity, but at the same time, it's for you to try to figure out why you have the insecurity. And once you understand the why, just like the other person understands the why, you start to work on that. Because the person who caused it, if you're the person who caused it, you know yours is really from guilt and shame and regret. And what you have to understand is that, like, you still have to give yourself grace too. That doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means that you made mistakes. And once you understand what those mistakes are, you can take the steps to starting to correct those errors if you're allowed to. But both of you guys who are sharing these insecurities and collaborating with the insecurities that you guys created eventually amongst each other, whether you're friends, family, or in a relationship, you guys have to make sure that you guys hold each other accountable for these insecurities and with these insecurities, and recognize the insecurities, but don't hold each other hostage. And when I say don't hold each other hostage, I mean that when you guys have shared insecurities, you understand what those insecurities look like. You be patient with each other with those insecurities. People get holding accountability and holding someone hostage. Um, they don't really understand the difference, because it can be one and the same. When you're having someone take accountability, when you're having someone own up to their mishaps and try to understand where they went wrong, sometimes it can be misunderstood for holding someone hostage. When you're making someone take accountability, you're asking them the whys. You're asking them to give you clarity on what they feel about certain circumstances. You're asking them to be present with the circumstances. You're asking them to figure out solution based situations with you or for themselves. When you're holding someone hostage, there is no solutions. There's a lot of lashing out. There's a lot of dismissive statements, dismissive emotions. It's become a controlled environment. Anytime that someone's trying to acknowledge or recognize what the situation is and try to, come to a kumbaya aspect, you don't want to do that. You want your way and your way only, because your way is the authentic way, and the other person's, you might not see it from their point of view because you're upset, you're hurt, you're mad, you want your way. But that becomes controlling. And another person, if they care, of course they're gonna be trying to cater to that, because they have insecurities too, but they want to work on that. But what happens is that when you holding someone hostage instead of accountable, eventually you you might end the friendship, you might end the situationship, because you don't feel fulfilled. And like, you, not only are you holding a person hostage, you holding yourself hostage, right? For the people who are holding people accountable, figure out what accountable looks like, because accountability in every situation is different. Okay, you got to figure out what accountability looks like for you. And when I say every situation is different, that means just because the person caused the insecurity in you does not mean that their accountability should be the accountability that's going to be fit for you. You cannot tell them how to take accountability. You cannot tell them how to be sorry. You can only give them room to be sorry, apologetic, sorry and apologetic. um you give them room to acknowledge, you give them room to process and understand what this looks like for them. If they want to continue this friendship, if they want to continue this relationship, if they want to continue this work project, whatever. For you, you have to understand also what that looks like. What does that look like to still continue to be in this person's setting? What does it look like to be in an environment with these people or persons, whatever, whoever did it, or who's ever did it? You wanna look at all those aspects, and you wanna figure out what your accountability is gonna look like, because believe it or not, the person who has the insecurity does have an accountability. And a lot of people don't recognize that, but the accountability that you're supposed to have is to acknowledge that you do have insecurity, to acknowledge they did make an insecurity hyping, or they created one, and what you're gonna do to make sure that like these insecurities do not leak out in healthy situations, or do not leak out when there is no problems to go through. And then like when there is insecurities, especially when they're hyphen, there is no time limit of when it's going to leak. It's just like having an anxiety attack. You cannot time it. 9 out of 10, you might know when it's due, but like you're just assuming, and then when it comes, you got to be ready for it. And that's how it is with an insecurity, and when you pass it on. Now, when you're the person that's taking accountability because you caused it, you want to make sure that like you acknowledge what you caused. You also take accountability for like what that looks like, and you do the steps that you can to make sure that you stay in this person's environment as well. So to end that part about it is to hold a person accountable, but not hold them hostage. I know I said a lot. I know I was ranting a lot. I felt good about that. I know y'all saw me 3 days in a row. That's beautiful. I don't know what tomorrow's gonna look like. I might do it, but I might not. I still have like some stuff to do. I know I'm getting prepared for school. If you made it to this part, or you probably just fast forward to see what I was talking about through this part, thank you. I hope I didn't ramble too much, but I know that like somebody's gonna get this information out there. Don't forget what I was telling you about the impact and intention, both two ways about it. Um, there's the raffle that I've been talking about. So I finally got the list. I got the list from the people who are helping me like in the backside. So I have two lists, and because this went where I wasn't sure where it was gonna go, we're gonna do it another day. So I don't know if it's gonna be next week. I'm thinking about next week. I have two lists already. I'm waiting for a third one. And like I said, if you didn't catch that live, like do watch the lives. Like I'm liking that I'm coming on with you guys, and I'm being encouraged like to continue to go. Live is nice, but I do encourage you guys to catch those other lives if you didn't catch it. Also, go dig in my archives and check some videos out. With that being said, I'm gonna go, And maybe I'll see you guys tomorrow. I don't know, but if I don't, I'll see you inside of one of the videos. And don't forget to go on the post. Yeah, the post is still up for the voting. I was about to say that. Don't forget to go on the post and dig down. It's not too far. It's just like probably like a few posts down. If you haven't voted yet, it's still up. We're voting on a name, and we're getting close to the name that we're all gonna agree on. So, if you haven't done it yet and you wish to be a part of this process, go to my post, and just vote for what name that you feel like will best be suited for us. All right, gotta go. I know you see the shirt. Yeah, it's a nice shirt. Yeah. Uh, Yeah, I think I don't even be reading this shirt. It says like how many licks or something. Yeah, I know. I know. All right. Yeah. So expect when the next live comes, it is gonna have the raffle. Stormy. Okay. Yes. The raffle was already like basically it was names that we were taking down, and they were people who like they throughout like when this channel started. You have comments that they left. You can see the likes. You can see how often they were engaging, like posts, comments, videos, lives, and if you stepped in like so this channel has been going now for like a good sweet 6 months, which is nice. Yay. Yay. No, I'm not monetized yet, but it's coming. I'm close. I'm close. But I want to talk about that too. We'll talk about that in another because I've been thinking about how I want to wrap that in. Because I'm not a huge YouTuber and I'm not someone that gets um thousands and thousands of views or hundreds and hundreds of views. So I'm not sure how that monetization journey will look. I gotta figure out what that looks like. But like I am close. I am close. My number is where am I at? I'm at 200 hours as a date. 200 hours. I probably could have been higher, but I was being very inconsistent, and yeah, very inconsistent. Video slowed down, but I know that traffic actually came from like probably like 90 days ago, like in the beginning. Then I slowed down, but like yeah, I think as a date when I checked like what 4 days ago or a week ago when they do the updates, it was about 200 and some change. So it's like yeah, I'm getting up there. I'm getting up there. I'm getting up there. It's working. I am getting better with the shorts too. I gotta do better. I gotta do better. Anyway, um, I'm gonna let y'all go now. I don't know if any of y'all got any more questions, but if not, like I feel like we've been up here for a long time. I didn't want to go for an hour, but like yeah, don't forget look out for the raffle. Look out for the new videos. We got those cameos. We got those interviews from YouTubers and content creators coming. If you want to be a guest up here, if you want me to cameo with you, if you feel like we make sense, don't forget to hit my email. I think I'm gonna probably put a cap on because there's a lot of feedback. There's a lot of people that like we are currently in the process of these projects, and there are some people that we are still like going through the threads of email chains, and we're going through the DMs, and we're going through messages, and we're trying to figure out what it looks like and what we want to do. There are some where it just fell through because honestly it didn't make sense for them and it didn't make sense for me, but we still want to support each other and I appreciate that. Others there was like conflict of schedules, and that's okay. That's okay because that doesn't mean that we can't do it. It just means we have to revisit it later. But it is getting to where it is getting hefty because like I have a few. When I say a few, I have a few. So and I don't want to drop them so fast because like I want to like pace them so they go like last out. But it is to where is that like I probably do need to slow down a little bit because I didn't expect to get the feedback that I am getting, and I expected it to be like a slow roast because I'm not a huge creator. My view count is usually from like 30 something to like 100 or something, sometimes two on a good month or so. I haven't seen like 800 to like 1K in like God knows how long. I think from the beginning of when I first started, and that's because I was playing with the YouTube SEOs and like copy and pasting and shit like that until I figured out I just wanted to actually just do community and stuff. But yeah, like we got all of that coming, so like I'm trying to decide like if I'm gonna put a cap on it. I'll probably take about like I could say I think I could take a yeah, you could just just email me. Just email me and then like you can come up if you want. Like I said, it's limited because it is taking a different direction. So it has to make sense. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. I want it to make sense to you. Not just come up, okay? Mm-hmm. What else you got out there? Because I really want to end this. I really want to end this. Pauletta, yes. Yes, I've been to your channel. You can, yes. Just email me. I think let me see. I can't see why I'm on this live, but I think it's in the descriptions. Like I think it's on the community wall on the YouTube. But like you can email me. Um, you can hit me on the social medias. I need to get better with getting back on Instagram, and yeah, like my TikTok, I didn't feel like I was doing too good on it, but I'll get it back because I know a lot of people's over there. But like email is the most effective way. Um, like we had to like really been doing this from like A1 day one. Like no disrespect to anyone out there. Like I'm not really trying to give out my number like that, and I don't do the WhatsApp thing. So it's just like if we hit the personal messages, it's because like we strictly business and stuff. Like this is business stuff, and we pairs. Like I don't want you to hit my direct number, and I'm really just trying to like disappear. You know what I'm saying? Like we all do it by accident. You know what I'm saying? And like I know that we all trying to get things off the floor, but it's like if I'm not trying to be reached, I don't want to be reached. You know what I'm saying? If I want to duck you, I want to duck you the way I want to. But like yeah, like I try to refrain to giving out my personal stuff. But that's like if we've been doing this from like A1 day one, like I'm talking about like we actually been coming up together with this stuff, and it makes sense for us to interact and like be out there. And that's no disrespect to everyone. It's just this is like a business, and it's also like support, and I don't want to overwhelm myself, but like yes, you could definitely hit the email. You could definitely uh hit my social medias. Instagram is pretty fast too. But I don't check it like I used to, but I am gonna start doing it again. All right, I gotta go, y'all. I love y'all. Miss y'all. Peace.